From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
40 days, 40 nights, since my baby.
Wake up! What up, everybody? Let's get back to it. It's Wake Up War Chant. You already all know that. Use the promo code WarChant30 if you're not a member of WarChant.com, you heard. Also, Corey, you did try to remind me at our weekend or end-of-week show from last week, like, yo, was that student special still going on? And I think the boss clarified that it's still going on. So if you're a student from that fsu.edu email address, email support@warchant.com. You'll get a promo code. With that promo code, you'll be able to get a whole year of access to warchant.com for $12 frickin' dollars.
It's pretty remarkable. I can't imagine anyone dumb enough. If you're at Florida State, if you actually got into the school, there's no way you're not smart enough to take advantage of that offer. Doesn't matter if you really like sports that much. Just get on. War Chant is a place to be. The Tribal Council is a place to mix it up a little bit. It's a community. We have fun. We have get-togethers. Corey and Ira and Aslan and Gene and Langston. What? I mean, there's just not a better. There's not a better promo probably in the free world than $12 for a year of War Chant. If you're a student and you're here theoretically for 4 years, you're going to get War Chant for 4 years for $48. That's a little quick math for you, Aslan.
Look at that. Boom. I feel like you said at the beginning that they're not smart enough to take this promo. I misspoke. I was going to say if you're too dumb to take advantage. I was going to say if you're too dumb to take advantage of this promo, there's no way you got into Florida State in the first place. Right. Harvard of the South, the real Harvard of the South, Tallahassee.
Definitely the Harvard of Tallahassee, or I guess probably the Harvard of Florida.
Cambridge, what? All right, so use those promo codes. WarChant30 if you're working, if you're regular Joe, Schmo, Jane, if you're a student. And folks, listen, I get it. You're like, why do they get this? Well, they're students. They live on like $1 pizza pies. Who knows what that's doing to their body on the inside? At least let their brain get nourished with some good Florida State news. We got some good news on Monday, Corey. Noel's going to the tournament. I'm stoked. Can you tell?
No, I can't. You sound. Did you have a good weekend, buddy?
I did. I'm wiped out. Spent a lot of time on the beach. It was really good. Got to see a lot of my old friends. That was super cool. Unplugged, got away from the internet. I didn't check Twitter for, I feel like, 2 straight days. It was quite liberating. It was a good weekend. How about you, man? And also solemn and true appreciation and respect for the reason we're able to have this extended weekend for those who paid the ultimate price and their families who continue on. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. And, I was thinking about Memorial Day on actual Memorial Day and like how, we got into some wars that, in hindsight, didn't really need to be in, especially that one, in Southeast Asia for about 8 or 10 years. I get that. And I'm not being political at all. I'm saying that no matter what the reasoning for the greatest generation, World War II, well, that was a triumph against evil. And that was something we all get behind. And they sacrificed their lives to keep, to save the world, essentially. Well, those people, they weren't any more brave than the people in the jungles in Vietnam, man. It is awe-inspiring to think about people going over there fighting for us, no matter where they are, no matter whether it's quote unquote a war to end all wars and to save us from Hitler and Japan, or over to keep communism spreading, quote unquote. Whatever the reason is, man, people laying down their lives, wearing the flag on their, wearing the uniform. Really just you take a minute, and I did. I took more than 1 minute on Memorial Day to think about that. And, frankly, I don't know how lucky you and I are that there wasn't a draft for me in 1994.
Yeah.
It's just, you. But I really do. Yeah, Memorial Day is always and I always look at, you ever seen that picture of the D-Day boats?
Oh yeah.
From behind when the guys are in the D-Day boats and they're oh my God, that is just it's hard. Imagine the what those guys. They're all 19 years old, man, and imagine what they're thinking, and imagine how many of them laid down their lives on that beach to eventually help us win that war, and how many lives they ended up saving. Just yeah. So anyway, back to Florida State baseball.
Mike Martin was able to avoid the wars due to his age. He came in at the right time. He missed the Great War, and then by the time Vietnam started, he was too old for it. But I imagine he probably had the anxiety of someone who knew they were still going to live, but that had to be his worst night's sleep, I would think, in a long, illustrious life that he's lived. That sleep that he had Sunday night going into Monday, especially now in hindsight, where they don't beat NC State. We're not talking. We're not having a fun time today.
Well, you're probably right.
I'm right. I'm right.
We don't know that. Well, there's no way to know that for sure unless we asked what's his name, the guy that came on the selection show for 35 seconds, Ray Tanner. But yeah. I mean, in hindsight, now that we know that they were one of the last four in. That they needed all the big wins they could get. You would also say the same thing if they didn't win that second game at Louisville. Like, I know the game 1 and game 3 were abject disasters, but that game 2 was a really big one. They finished their season with a nice win at Louisville and then a really good win against NC State that probably did. I still think, man, if they're the first one out, I just can't imagine if they're right there, they don't say, you know what, TCU, sorry. I can't. Is it Horsenschwag? What's that guy's name?
Schlossnagel.
Schlossnagel. I was getting them confused with Hornibrook. I can't imagine they would put TCU with a losing record in the Big 12 over a Florida State team that had a winning record in the ACC. Oh yeah, and a retiring Mike Martin. But either way, you're right. It was a huge win. We'll never know. But yeah, man, he said he didn't sleep real well. He was hoping that their ACC strength of schedule wouldn't be held against them. He brought up the fact they didn't get to play Georgia Tech, who would have been a really high RPI team for them. Also, you never know if you'd have beaten them, so it might not have helped that much. But it's just fitting. I think Kyle Peterson, who actually is really good. Does he remind you of anyone? Kyle Peterson, the college baseball analyst on ESPN.
You a little bit?
Oh no, I was being serious. I can't. The way he talks, his mannerisms, he reminds me of somebody else, and I just can't put my finger on it. But he's awesome, by the way. And he said at the end when they were talking about Mike Martin after they interviewed him, he's like, it is good and right that Mike Martin finishes his career in the NCAA tournament.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
Absolutely.
40 for 40.
Yeah.
And this was the only one that was close, right?
Yeah. I mean, good grief. It's crazy. Exactly. I can't imagine him, like what he was feeling, his emotions. But I think the NC State game, them rallying Friday and coming out strong like that, got them in as one of the last four in. Now they're here. So they're going to Athens. They're going to Corey Clark's ancestral homeland.
Mm-hmm.
They will face the 2 seed, FAU. FAU is actually the 2 seed. Florida State's a 3 seed. And then Mercer, the 4 seed, taking on the host Georgia. They played Mercer this year, right? Florida State? That was beginning of the year part of it, right? They got Mercer this year. So they played Mercer. They beat Mercer. Okay. That's a good thing. FAU, meanwhile, both teams have announced the starting pitchers. So let's get into, let's try to pretend we're going to go like, brass tacks on this, and then we can go into bigger picture stuff or more sentimentality, emotion, romanticism stuff. Florida State's going to start Drew Parrish. FAU is going to send their ace as well. His name is Blake Sanderson. He's won his last 4 starts. I think he's like 8-2 on the year. One of those starts was a big time Friday night start in Hattiesburg against Southern Miss, which helped them clinch the Conference USA regular season title. They ended up losing to Southern Miss on Sunday in the Conference USA Tournament championship game, but that was in Biloxi. It was pretty much another road game. But this guy's good. This kid's good. However, he did get rocked last year in the Gainesville Regional. They actually made it to the final game of that regional against the Gators, but lost. He had no part in the game that they beat. Florida. He got shelled in his first start there. So, he's a guy that he's been there, but he really hasn't proven anything, the Blake Sanderson guy. He's a fifth-year senior for them. So, ace on ace. What do you think? I think it almost kind of worked out serendipitously for Mike Martin, the way things kind of worked out, where, Van Eyck had his last start on Friday, so you can throw Parrish in game one, because the conventional sort of play by 11 all the years has been to usually throw, and I guess it's obviously different because they're usually a 1 seed playing a 4, so they have the luxury of not throwing their number 1 arm. But do you think right now 11 thinks that Parrish is his number 1 pitcher, and that's why he's throwing him against FAU? Or is he throwing Parrish because he's kind of fingers crossed, if we can get past these guys, boy, I need my big gun if I'm going to get by Georgia most likely on Saturday, so I want to have Van Eyck ready to go for that game. What do you think, Corey?
No, I think it's what the first thing you said. It's I think if it was, I don't know. That's a good question. I think mainly I don't think he thinks there's that much difference between the two. Yeah. So why mess up with the rotation? Why mess with the rotation? Have Parrish go on Friday. Have Van Eyck ready for Saturday. You hope that you're playing. I guess you hope you're playing Mercer in the winners bracket. Damn right. But you want Van Eyck in the winners bracket game. But again, Parrish has been so up and down this year. But even in the Wake Forest game, he gave up 4. I only think 1 or 2 of them were earned. Yeah. He gave up 4 runs, but he had 13 strikeouts. Like he was pretty darn dominant in that game. And then Van Eyck did what he did. I think you feel pretty good about those two going into a regional. You don't feel great about your team because how could you? There's not been a whole lot to feel great about. But they've shown signs that when they play well, they don't just win some of these games. They just roll these teams. So I guess you feel pretty good about that. But, yeah, I think mainly the biggest difference between how he normally does it is that, usually he's a 1 playing a 4. And it's bitten him a couple times here in the last 4 years. Bit him last year. They lost the first game. I don't even think Van Eyck pitched in the regional last year. No, he was essentially their second best pitcher, and I don't think they ever used him.
Yeah, they sent Sands out there on Friday night against Samford, and he didn't. Actually, I don't think he didn't play that. The offense is what let them down that night, right?
Yeah, they didn't score. They didn't score. But yeah, he went with Sands when obviously Parrish was his best pitcher at the end of last year. Van Eyck was probably what they were thinking who'd pitch game 3. Well, they never got to a game 3, as we remember. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. They haven't been a 2 seed or a 3 seed. There's essentially no difference between being a 2 and a 3 when it comes to a regional. But in 13 years.
I'm trying to find the tweet from this Florida State baseball historian, big-time fan, George, I think is his name. I can't find the tweet, but yeah,
FSUGO.
Yeah, he fleshed it out on Twitter into a pretty nice tweet about just the fact that I think this is like only the second time in, the last, 30 years nearly that Florida State's not a 1 seed. They're not a
Yeah, they were a 2 seed in 2006, also in Athens. And that's it for this decade. That's it for this century. That's it. The only other time they traveled in the first round, other than Athens, was in 2010, where they were the 1 seed and they were sent up to Connecticut. Right. But for some reason, I'm still not quite sure what's quite certain what happened there. But that was the last time they were on the road for the first round, and that was in Connecticut. Like there's literally like 55 people at their first game. Right. This year will be a little different. Obviously mainly because they're playing in Athens, and there's going to be a lot of Georgia fans if they play Georgia. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I also think it's not a bad thing for this team, man. They've had so much pressure on them, this group of guys, for the last 2 years, really chasing records, chasing streaks, making sure the legend went out in the actual NCAA tournament. I do think they'll play loose. I think they'll go into this thinking they have nothing to lose. They got him to the tournament. I can't imagine they think they're going to win 11 more games and hoist a trophy in Omaha. So just keep playing and see what happens. Have fun. You made the tournament. The hard part was for this team, this particular team, getting to the tournament was the hard part. It's over now. You did it. Barely, but you did it. So don't you think they'll play a little loose? And like there is a weight off their shoulders?
I can't wait to talk to the guys later on Tuesday. They're giving us availability in the morning around 10:45, and I'm a little bit grumpy about that. But it's they're playing at noon on Friday, streaming on ESPN3, so maybe this is part of just getting them mentally ready to play an early game. So
yeah, that's exact. They do. I think because they'll start practice, really about 11:30 or noon.
Right.
Which is they're trying to adjust them to that time schedule and obviously to that heat.
Which are all good. Willie, Willie maybe start practicing later in the day. 5 p.m. kickoffs.
Or start scheduling games at 8:30 a.m.
We can do that too, maybe. ACC Network wants flexibility in the scheduling, Willie. So maybe you can reach out, build some equity with the conference. I almost would think a guy like Mendoza might have been on edge more so than 11. As crazy as that sounds, just because you don't want to be the team. You don't want to be the last. You don't want to be the guys who drop the bag on this. Although I don't know. I mean, is anyone going to really remember in 18? Like if Brian Burns has a great career, is anyone going to be like, yeah, Brian Burns, poof, welcome to Canton. But man, remember 2018 at Florida State? Part of that team, bowl streak, win streaks, everything over. That's got to suck. Wonder if he sleeps at night. So maybe obviously it's not as pronounced, but some of those guys, I mean, I think a guy like Mendoza has a true appreciation for what is on the line every single time you play with that jersey on in the month of May and June. And I think, especially with his family obviously being alums, like if he's the star on the team that didn't get 11 to the tournament, especially, in his last season, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, you'll shake it off eventually, but that's some indignity that you don't want on your name, obviously. So curious to see what they have to say about it. But in terms of them playing loose, I just think ultimately at the end of the day, they're going into this regional with probably still the best 1-2 punch starting pitchers. That's got to count for something. I don't know if them playing loose is going to be based on the fact that it's house money. No one expected us to be here. We just snuck in. We're a 3 seed. No one's expecting anything from us. Or the fact that, Drew Parrish and Van Eyck are apt to go out there and scatter 4 hits over 7 innings and only allow 1 run and punch out 12 guys. And then you just need to score 2-3 runs to advance to the next day. So that's going to be a helpful sort of thing. But I don't know. I still think the team is still too young overall. They've experienced too much failure, I think, to not get down on themselves that this doesn't start off hot. I think the quick start is going to be so important, I think, for them for as long as the season's going to play out, for however much longer season they've bought themselves. I just think this is a team that needs to jump out the leads early. Starting pitching obviously needs to cruise well into the game. Maybe a couple 6-out, maybe a 6-out save, maybe a 9-out save from J.C. Flowers in one of these sort of games. But again, we've always liked the starting pitching, at least up top with the 1-2 they have. If they can get a lead, if they can, I don't know, maybe hunker down and get back to what they've done so well with Mike Martin Jr. being the hitting coach and just, get deep into counts, get deep into opposing teams' bullpens and just get on base. Hopefully someone gets knocked in first on the good guy side, and then from there, the starting pitching takes form. So all said, I feel good about it. They made the tournament. Like you said, that was the tough part. Get to the tournament, keep the streaks alive. I mean, anything from here is a little bit of a bonus. Although part of me wondered, Corey, if there would have been some sort of like romantic, poetic justice if they didn't make the tournament. Just because, the whole thing is you want to be, I was watching Moneyball last week, and I know so much parts of that movie resonated with me. But anyhow, the whole thing with Brad Pitt's character, Billy Beane, is you got to win the last game of the year. Like, if you don't win the last game of the year, no one cares about you. Doesn't matter what else you did. It would almost have been a little bit poetic if for the first time in his career, Mike Martin won the final game of his season. Granted, it wouldn't be in Omaha hoisting the trophy. Sure. But like he could always kind of joke around when he would go somewhere, like, you know what? I always wanted to win the last game of the season. I did in my final season, sort of a ha-ha, chuckle. But I'm sure he'll go out on his sword in Athens or in Baton Rouge. That's who they're matched up with for the Super Regional. I haven't looked too much at the LSU Regional. I don't know how likely it is that if Florida State upsets whoever in the Athens Regional that they would be able to maybe pull off a 2017 and host the Super. I think LSU's pretty prime, and if they obviously win their regional, they'll be hosting. But I think even as a 3 seed, Florida State could still maybe even jump ahead of another team outside the Baton Rouge regional if it's not the 1 seed, just because there. But I feel good about it, man. I really do. It's good to know that he's going to be there in the NCAA tournament. The sentiment that you echoed from Kyle Peterson is totally on point. It's just and right. It's really a lot. You have to really be a really grumpy, miserable person to complain about the draw they have and where they're at right now. And even me, I can't find a reason to complain.
And you are grumpy. Yeah, man. Nobody. I'm certainly not here thinking that they're even going to get out of that regional. I certainly don't think they're going to be celebrating anything in Omaha. I just don't think this team is equipped to do it.
Yeah.
But man, just have fun, see where it goes, man. Just have fun and see where it goes. I think they have as good a shot as going 0-2 as they do winning the whole thing up there. But it's baseball, man. Crazy things happen. So they do have two capable pitchers. I wouldn't say they're the best 1-2 starting duo in the regional necessarily, because they've just, especially Parrish, has been wildly inconsistent.
I got faith in him, man. I got faith in Parrish.
They've done well on the big stage before. Certainly Parrish, if you take away, the last pitch of the last regional, he was phenomenal, and so he's done well on the big stage before, sure. But it's going to be a different deal being on the road. I don't think that's a bad thing for a young team to be on the road. And I don't think it's necessarily nobody expects us to be here, but nobody expects them to win anything. Yeah. And I do think, like, when they played the whole season, it's like, man, you are not going to be the team that doesn't get him to the tournament. You cannot do that to this guy his last season. And there is some weight that comes with that. Well, now they got there. Okay, whether they get to 40 wins or not, okay, fine. They made the NCAA tournament 42 straight years. That streak is still alive. That team accomplished this, or this team accomplished that. So, I think that they should play kind of carefree and loose. But again, I don't think this is like a 1990s Florida State team where if they had played more carefree and loose, they would have won the whole thing. This team is not built to do that. Right. I think maybe a healthier mindset, less pressure, less squeezing the bat, or death grips on the ball. I think that can help them win maybe another game or two. But I don't think it's going to be enough to have them go on some great magical run to Omaha. But you know what, Aslan? I've been wrong before.
I want to believe it, man. I really do.
Either way, though, it's cool. I like that they're. Number one, just on a personal level, Athens is 38 miles from that field is 38 miles from my house, up there in Buford. So that's awesome. I might even take Brady to the game on Friday.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. It's at my old stomping grounds. Might show Brady around campus a little bit. Show a couple buildings where Daddy had classes in that he always skipped. I got all that stuff to do too while I'm in Athens. But yeah,
go, man. I'm gonna have to try to strong arm the boss.
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna need a. Well, yeah. Hey, come up. But either way, I like that Mike Martin's career is going to end on a baseball field, not watching some TV show on Memorial Day.
There we go. I'm cool with that. By the way, Florida State swept Mercer earlier this season. 9-5, 12-1, 5-1. So that could be a team that you could possibly see. FAU, I think they have a really good offense. Again, their starting pitcher, Blake Sanderson, is a fifth-year senior. He's done quite well his last 4 outings, but got shelled in the Gainesville Regional. So we'll see.
Hey, real quick, you talked about Moneyball.
Yeah.
And how Billy Beane was like, nobody cares unless you win the last game.
Right.
Yeah, but they made a movie about the guy.
That's true.
So obviously they did care. He never won the last game. He still hasn't. But he got played by Brad Pitt in a movie.
Yeah.
I ain't listening to that, Billy Beane. I ain't listening to all that.
I almost want to elevate Moneyball into my top 10 sports movies.
Oh, it's great. I showed Brady that movie, actually. He really liked it.
There's 2 scenes that resonate with me. One of them reminds me of Mike Martin. One of them reminds me of Willie Taggart. There's one when he goes into Art Howe's office, which Philip Seymour Hoffman does a great job of playing Art Howe.
Could we not have gotten – and Philip Seymour Hoffman was an incredible actor, and he does do a really good job in that movie. But, man, does he look bad in a baseball uniform. It doesn't look right, man.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Art Howe – imagine Art Howe going to, the premiere of that movie. And being – you got who to play me? What, that's him?
You got Brad Pitt.
Yo, Brad Pitt's playing me? Nice, man. Oh, no. We got the heavyset guy. Remember Scotty from Boogie Nights that's in love with Mark Wahlberg? Well, he's put on about 80 pounds since then. We're going to fit him into your uniform.
Yeah. But no, there's the scene.
Anyway, what was the scene? Sorry.
The scene's where he goes into the off because they've been struggling about, hey, this is what we need to do. You need to start these guys. Don't start Pena, start Hattie Burke at first. Bring Bradford out of the pen earlier. or make him the first. And then he's like, last night I think you should have started Hattiesburg at first. He's like, well, he's not a first baseman. He's like, well, okay, how about let's bring Bradford out of the bullpen first. He's like, I had a righty. He's like, I don't care about righty-lefty matchup. And then Art Howe's like, I do. And I'm like, that'd be Mike Martin and I sitting down arguing about stuff. And then they lose a game, and they're dancing in the locker room. And then Brad Pitt comes in and is like, is losing fun? And, he knocks everything over, hits the bat on the cooler. He's like, is losing fun? They're like, no. He's like, well, then why y'all having fun? He's like, this is what losing sounds like. And he just says nothing, and it's just silence. But then you go out and knuck if your buck is playing. I found the tweet from Noel, York City. Follow him on Twitter, FSU Geo. FSU baseball has been a number 1 seed 23 out of the last 24 seasons, dating back to the old 48-team tournament. Between 1995 and 2018, the only time FSU was not a number 1 seed was 2006.
Just, again, I'm a broken record. I get it.
Drink it
42 straight years is ridiculous. A coach, number one, a coach just coaching 40 straight years is nuts. But to make the tournament every year it's incredible. And again, to bring it, I remember when they showed Miami on the selection show, and like, oh, look who returns to the NCAA tournament after a 2-year absence, the Miami Hurricanes.
Right.
It's like, what? They missed it 2 years in a row. Like, everybody does that. Virginia missed it again. Virginia's not in the tournament again. And I know a lot of people everybody listening to this would rather have 1 or 2 or 3 of those trophies as opposed to 40 straight years of making the postseason, or 42 straight years. But still, you can want that, but also appreciate just how incredible it is to make the postseason 40 straight years, every year. And this was the only time he was probably restless going into it. The first 39 years, he knew when he went to bed the Sunday night before the draw that he was comfortably in the tournament. Only one time in his career was he not 100% sure he was in the tournament out of 40. That's just impossible. And I think when you especially in this day and age, when you look at Florida barely got in, Florida missed it a couple of years ago. Florida finished with a losing record a couple of years ago. Now again, they won a tournament. I got it. Virginia won a tournament. They missed the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row. Miami missed it 2 years in a row. Georgia Tech missed it last year.
UCLA missed it a few years ago, and they won it in 2013.
In Georgia, Georgia's good now, but Georgia was irrelevant for a decade, essentially. And that's a big baseball state. Trust me, there are apparently 1,000  10-year-old travel ball teams in Georgia because we've played them all. It's a really baseball crazed state, and it's finally back to where it should be. Same with Georgia Tech. Man, it is not normal to be this good for this long. And I hope, no matter where and when it ends, that will be his overriding legacy, is there'll never be anything like this again. Nobody's ever going to go, obviously, 40 for 40 with NCAA tournaments. Nobody's ever going to coach that long anymore, but nobody's ever going to have that baseline. Now, I know the highs weren't as high as we wanted them, but that baseline of good to great is really just remarkable, and I hope we appreciate it, and I'm glad the guy gets one more chance at it.
Yeah. On a completely opposite note, Florida State softball season ended this past weekend. The defending champs will not be returning to Oklahoma City to, defend their title. Although, listen, it's still staying in the Plex. No one's coming to take the trophy away from them. Going down in 3 games to Oklahoma State, so that's a bit of a bummer. But shout out to Lonnie Alameda and the Seminole softball team. Still a great season. I mean, it just goes to show you again. They led the nation in home runs and. Bats just kind of went cold at the worst time in the season for them, unfortunately. So even softball falls prey to the silly whims of the bat and ball gods. But program's on the right path, so you can't get too upset about that. Corey,
it was a bummer that they lost the game 3. Kind of in the fashion they lost it too. Wasn't great. But yeah, man, nobody's taking 18 away from them. That's always there. And I feel like Lonnie has this thing, obviously, on a path where, they lose a lot of good players, but they're set up for a long time. This program isn't going anywhere.
Do we have anything football related to talk about? Do check out warchant.com. There's 2 parts of a 3-part series are already up right now that Irish FL, the managing editor of our website, has been knocking out, doing a really great job on talking about the finances, the increasing revenue gap between the ACC and the other Power 5 conferences, how much of it can be made up with the ACC network launching here in less than 100 days. Several things going on warchant.com. Check them out. The only thing of note I thought was interesting football-wise was the whole Manning Passing Academy thing. I've kept my eye on this because I've always wanted to kind of go. I remember like when I was in Mississippi, I don't know why I didn't go when I was in Mississippi because I feel like every year they always would throw the Ole Miss quarterback down there, no matter who it was. Dak Prescott went down there when he was at Mississippi State. But I figured, why not, James Blackman in this day and age of people transferring, leaving. Did you see this kid from Texas who transferred to Southern Cal and is transferring back to Texas?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, man. 2019.
Did he do anything at USC? Was he like there for a year?
That I'm not 110% sure. I'm going to pull up the tweet right now just so I can go ahead and maybe even look up the guy. But when I saw that, I'm like, this is not what the framers had in mind when they were putting these things together here. It's just it's bizarre. Brew McCoy is a Texas freshman. Southern Cal reporter Chris Trevino reports that Texas freshman receiver Brew McCoy intends to transfer back to Southern Cal. McCoy enrolled at Southern Cal in January, transferred to Texas a few weeks later, potentially going back to Southern Cal. Haven't confirmed it, but what an odd story if it happens. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've confirmed it.
Yeah, and I've never even heard of that, but sounds like a guy that maybe struggles with decision making a little bit, or just decisions in general.
Yeah. Well, actually, say as of a Monday afternoon, Texas had not informed anybody, or this guy McCoy did not inform anybody at Texas about his intent to transfer. But it doesn't mean that he's not going to try to leave. But just the fact that
what's this have to do with the Manning camp?
Well, Manning Pass Academy, they have all these guys. There's a bunch of guys on the roster that. There's the guys that have either dropped down, they've transferred to schools, and I'm like, they'll probably. Tua's out there though. Justin Herbert from Oregon's out there. Trevor Lawrence is going to be out there. So there's some guys that have stayed with their program and endured some highs and lows and passed up on millions to stick around. In Herbert's case, I'm like, probably be good if they threw James Blackman out there. Maybe also add some diversity to the counseling staff if you look at things in that prism. And they've been like unveiling one by one every day like a new quarterback. And I keep emailing the guy who runs it. I'm like, is James Blackman? I'm like, figured like maybe throw a guy out there that's going to be starting a Kendall Browse offense. It's kind of a cool thing. And then sure enough, there's only one name left to flip over the chart. And I think they're going to do that later this week, and I don't know who it is. Maybe it will be James Blackman. But as I'm looking for James Blackman's face on this thing, I see Alex Hornibrook's face. So a Florida State quarterback is going to be a counselor at the Manning Passing Academy down in Thibodaux, Louisiana. I think where it's Nicholls State plays football. But it's Alex Hornibrook. That caught me by surprise.
Yeah. Me too, I guess.
He'd been there before.
Maybe it'll help him. There's some good guys to work with. So maybe that'll help him, and he'll turn into a Manning clone.
He's not going to get coached. He coaches people. So
well, yeah, but couldn't he ask for advice?
Well, actually,
Eli, watch me throw for about 25 minutes. See what you like or don't like.
Actually, why this makes now it's all making sense. He actually won. Gosh, this microphone. See, I'm using this handheld mic, and I budge and move. Like I'm sitting in a really awkward position right now just to try to get through this podcast, and we're almost done. Hornibrook actually won the quarterback challenge at last year's Manning Passing Academy. He was the only quarterback to hit all 3 targets. So I guess you got to let the champ come back and defend his title.
Oh, yeah.
It would be wrong if they didn't let him come out there. So, yeah, Wisconsin was pumped for that. And then he left him. So,
well, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Yeah, all right. Well, that's good for him that he won a contest. Let's see if he wins the job.
No one took the bait, though. Yeah, there's somebody's like, oh, this place is going to melt down when he gets a starting job over James Blackman. So I took a screenshot of that guy. You know who you are in the tribal council, so protect your neck.
That would be something if that happens. I tell you what, one side of Wake Up War Chant is going to melt down if that happens. I can tell you that much. Corey Clark ain't going to be happy at all. I want to see James Blackman run this offense for a year, and if Hornibrook has to come in and spell him because of injury or because of ineffectiveness, I got it. Mm-hmm. But let Blackman run the show, and let's see what's what.
Yeah, let's just.
But hey, maybe he shows out at the Manning passing. I wonder if they get paid for that.
No, come on.
For a counselor, you might get some money for that.
I don't know. Why are you trying
Maybe.
to start?
It's not like the Mannings are trying to buy anyone. They're already in college. I guess these days that doesn't matter. You can transfer in 12 seconds no matter what.
Yeah. Jake Fromm's going to be there. The quarterback from Virginia is going to be there. Bryce Perkins.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to look at all these guys, see how many guys that Florida State's going to have to play that are at the – like Joe Burrow from LSU is there. And I mean, I know he's got to go because it's LSU and it's in Louisiana, but like, come on. We can't get James Blackman out there?
Like, maybe he's the last one, buddy.
Tommy Stevens from Penn State. Come on. Zach Thomas from Appalachian State. Come on.
Maybe Blackman didn't want to do it. Maybe they asked and he didn't want to do it. And they're like, okay, well, who's your backup? He goes, I don't know, some guy from Wisconsin. Look him up.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, he was here last year. I mean, it could have been that. Maybe Blackman doesn't want to do it. Maybe
Blackman's out grinding.
Maybe he wants to be with his teammates instead.
James Blackman's in the lab. He's going to hang out with his teammates.
Yeah.
Run practices. That's what my guy's going to be doing.
All right, Skippy.
Okay, I think we're done. I don't know what our schedule is going to be for this week. Corey's going to be in Athens. I'm going to try to go, but I probably would be unsuccessful in being able to go.
Mm-hmm.
But when they win the regional and go to Baton Rouge, then I'm definitely going to go.
You're definitely all over that.
Hey,
by the way, before we close it up, I don't think I articulated real well what I was saying about Memorial Day and different wars.
Oh, jeez.
My point is the guys in World War II that are on the front lines doing that weren't any braver than the guys in any other war.
You're going to war. You're literally putting your life on the line. You're walking into imminent death, possibly.
Yes, no matter what, whether it's the Viet Cong or whether it's Nazis, you don't know. And just the fact that they had those moments, all of them, and they laid down their lives on foreign land. No matter what the war was, no matter what the outcome of the war was, it's just a debt that we all owe. And I should recommend this every year. If you haven't, I should do it every week. Watch Band of Brothers.
I've never seen it.
It's awesome. It is awesome.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy to me, and it never even occurred to me, is all those guys that stormed Normandy, the ones that survived. Like, we've all seen, most of us, maybe not even most of us, some of us have seen Saving Private Ryan. And, like, that you watch Saving Private Ryan and the hell they went through just to get up that beach. And then they end up, conquering the beach and taking over the beach. Well, you would have thought, okay, guys, you're done. You get to go home. Yeah. You did it. You guys got through the beach. You were on the front line. You made it through. And then, no. You still got to, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to go all through Europe. Like, you're not even close to done. You got to do the Battle of the Bulge. Like, it's incredible just what these guys went through for us, for all of us, for humanity. But yeah, Band of Brothers is also it starts kind of with D-Day, but they're what are they, paratroopers? So they don't actually storm the beach; they land behind the front line. And anyway, but watch it; it's really, really good, and it really gives you a sense of what I mean, as much as it can, what that was like. And just the heroes, they play real people. It's based on real stories. It's 10 parts, I think, maybe 8 parts. Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg produced it. Just really, really good.
And also, I guess I'll clarify that I wasn't trying to compare the anxiety of waking up to see if you're going to make it into the NCAA tournament the same as the anxiety of waking up on the eve of D-Day. So I wasn't trying to compare those two.
Hopefully most people understood that.
Also,
I like we should do a clarifying every show. We can wrap up with clarifying.
In that vein, so during Memorial Day, we were just talking about war over. I'm just like, I just can't imagine like waking up and knowing like you're going to die probably. And we were talking about like the old fashioned, like, Civil War sort of stuff where you meet at a hill, you talk about, all right, we'll see you tomorrow at the sunrise and then we're going to fight to the death. And it's like, all right. And then you just line up and you line up and you all just run each other and just go at it. I just think about when you would look and just see how outnumbered you were. And just like, you're like, there's got to be you got to be like, we don't have good odds right now. And my one buddy was super drunk. He's like, dude, think about like when you're playing like basketball and like your team, like you were shorthanded and you only had 5. And then the team you're playing at had like subs and like you had no subs on the bench. and you had to play them and you knew you were going to lose. Like, imagine how bad that sucked. But imagine going to war and you know they've got all these subs. And I was like, that's deep. That's deep, Mike.
Yeah, I think the better analogy, though, it's still 5-on-5 on a basketball court. Like, I think if all the subs were playing at the same time, too.
All right, okay.
And it's 12-on-5, then you're really at a disadvantage.
Okay. This clarifying segment has been brought to you by no one. If you'd like to sponsor anything on Wake Up War Chant, contact me, Aslan Hajavandi. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. You just heard that. Thanks for listening. We'll be back at some point this week. Just be on the lookout. As always, subscribe to the podcast, rate, review it, and you'll know when the next show drops. Thanks for listening, everybody.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.